Hi everyone, welcome to Sumeru's cybersecurity webinar on DevSecOps for All. If you're joining us for the first time, it's great to have you. And I also wanted to mention that this is our fourth webinar. So the previous three can be found on our LinkedIn and YouTube channels with the name Sumeru Information Security. And this one will also be uploaded there. So in case you miss out on something or would want to share, do catch up. And yeah, so in our today's webinar, our speaker Shashank will debunk myths about DevSecOps and talk about traditional app security culture, fundamental challenges in building a secure app, the eternal dilemma of speed versus security fixes, and how DevSecOps can actually help you overcome the impediments. Shashank has over 13 years of 13 years of experience in securing sensitive information of hundreds of companies across the globe. He has expertise in DevSecOps, Red Team, pen testing, infrastructure, and application security. As you can see, you can check out. So this is the second webinar. His previous webinar was on Red Team, and you can check it out on our LinkedIn and YouTube pages, as I mentioned, with the name Sumeru Information Security. And we hope you enjoy our session and find it useful. We would love to address your questions or doubts in case you have any. There is a chat box on the top left screen, on the top left corner of your screen, I'm sorry. You can type it there. We will take it all at the end of the session. And yeah, it's great to have you all. Thank you so much for joining us. And over to you, Shashank.
Thank you, Isha, for the introduction. I welcome all of you. Thank you for joining today. Before we start talking about DevSecOps, I would like to understand a few things. The first thing is, how is your AppSec program doing? So, and are there any challenges which you are facing today? So there are a few questions which are there, and I think you will get a pop-up also for saying yes or no for this. So the first question from my side is, are there frequent code changes which makes it difficult for you to catch up with the security? So I think you have a poll also there. Maybe you can say yes or no if you're feeling that it's really tough to catch up with the security, with the speed and security together. My next question is, are you facing repeated security issues in your pen tests? So this is usually happening from past multiple pen tests where you are seeing the similar kind of issues coming again and again. Yeah, this answer you can just think of in your mind. Or are you facing roadblocks because of the security and compliance? So you have some critical delivery and there is a code which has to be pushed into the production environment, and then there are guys in their security team and they're coming and saying, hey, they're like the policeman. Yeah. So are you facing any roadblocks? And my next question is, any frequent bug fixes which caused really, really pain, a good amount of pain for you? So any, for example, architectural changes. So, and the last question is, are there application stakeholders in your team who are not owning the security responsibility? So there is a poll now. You can say yes or no here. Good. So on this note, let's talk about DevSecOps. So in my experience of last 13 years, I have seen different kind of application cultures in different environments. There are companies who have products in place and they are developing software at a very good speed. At the same time, there are companies who doesn't push code too frequently. And there are different kind of cultures which I'm seeing. And most of the common things what I've seen among all these organizations are that security is always considered as an afterthought. So it's always at the last when people are going live. That's where they think of performing a pen test or doing a security testing, and then bugs are being found, vulnerabilities are being found, and then they go back and fix everything. So it's always being an afterthought, and that is why security is also considered as a roadblock, because it's always, as I say, it's like a policeman. You don't get a pass unless you you actually fix your code properly. So often it is seen as a roadblock. And due to this rush of going live, rush of catching up with the delivery speed, there are some quick patches and some workarounds which people usually deploy. Yeah, and they are usually handy. So it has become part of the culture where some sort of firefighting happens, and you just apply some sort of quick patch to get the security clearance. And also, people think that pen testing is sufficient. So when it comes to application security program, usually organization think that if I've done a pen test, I've done security testing at the end, then I'm done. Yeah. So this is some sort of common culture which we are talking about. Of course, I'll look into each of this issue. And one more thing, what I heard people saying is, AppSec tools are very costly. If I want to go and buy a code review tool, then it will cost me few $1,000 license, and that's really costly. Yeah, that's a valid concern. And also, I have seen a lot of lack of security automation. So people are not able to work out their tools properly, not able to automate the security in the whole workflow. So these are the common AppSec culture which I've seen in multiple organizations. And when I say what should be the ideal way of doing an AppSec, so for this, we know that there's something called a secure development lifecycle in place, and they talk about security to be introduced at each and every phase of your development lifecycle. So yeah, threat modeling is something which if everybody should do, because there you are sitting with the stakeholder, finding out different kind of threats which are applicable to your scenario, or the kind of functional cases you are going to write in the code. So that really helps you to identify vulnerabilities early in your development lifecycle. Then your developers are equipped with security knowledge. They know how to code secure code, and then the coding which has been done throughout is all following all the security compliance. Yeah, and then you perform a code review. You perform a secure code review. You have a code review tool in place which does the SAST for you. You have a dynamic application security scanner which does a DAST for you, and then later you have deployed some security engineers to go through the application manually and test everything manually, and that's where your security testing comes in place. And then when the code is at the production level, then there is, of course, you're following a proper security of the production environment where you are scanning for the missing patches, you're scanning for the misconfigurations, and there is a usual pen test or red team exercises which are happening over the production environment. And also to have a basic hygiene in place, you also have a WAF. So you have a web application firewall which is blocking all the malicious traffic, and then all this also working in a coherence with a proper automation in place. So this is how a proper AppSec looks like when you have all these elements in place and working like an orchestra, working like hand to hand with each other. Yeah. But the culture, what I have seen, there are some challenges involved with the common culture of application security among organizations. The first one is the every time a bug is found, then at the production end, the time required to fix that bug, the effort and time really increases the overall cost. Yeah, because every time you're attending to the security later and then coming back and doing the code changes, then there are issues with developers. There could be some changes, and if unfortunately if something is there like architectural change, then it becomes so much painful for everyone. Yeah. And then all these quick patches which people apply have bypasses available. So you will see that code's been pushed to the production level, and then there's a quick patch somebody has deployed, and then it's again getting opened, and it becomes an infinite loop that people are not able to attend to the root cause of the bug, and then it's becoming it's an overhead for everyone. Also, when your number of commits increases on a daily basis or a weekly basis, then it becomes really difficult if you have just the security testing in place, or you don't have some sort of automation in place. So catching up with the development skill speed is another problem which organizations really facing because of the common culture. And also, when a bug is found, and then if the developers are equipped enough with the right kind of knowledge, they can fix everything. But usually I have seen that there's a lot of time required to actually analyze the bug and then arrive to a proper solution. So you need to have a proper knowledge base in place. At the same time, you need to reduce the time required to fix a bug. So uh, bug found versus the time to fix is something matrix which needs to be worked on. Yeah, and this common culture doesn't actually add any value to your organization culture. So it doesn't actually enhances the security awareness of your developers or different teammates. And it's always a firefighting mode. So every time a bugs come out, people are firefighting, and there is a blame game happens. And then, so these are the common challenges which I see in day-to-day working with different kind of organizations. Now, DevSecOps is trying to solve all this. So DevSecOps is a process in which the teams, they work together in coherence, and when there is no separate function of security, and developers own the security, at the same time your ops team also own the security. So it's like a common culture where everybody is responsible for the security. Yeah, and here most of the security tasks are done through automation. So you have your DevOps in place, you have your CI/CD pipeline in place, then different kind of tools just integrate with your existing CI/CD pipeline, and then you have security tools working in coherence like a proper orchestra, and then producing results, and then making sure that the bugs are being attended on time, and then stakeholders are being informed on time. So all that happens in a very coordinated fashion in a proper automation. So it tries to follow the ideal way of attending to application security. It also shifts the security towards the left. It also has the proper automation in place. So it tries to solve a lot of problems which classical application security program poses to us. So what does it bring? So it brings a proper automation, as I said, and then it integrates well with your CI/CD pipeline. It also develops or produces results which can be directly plugged into different kind of ticketing mechanisms or different kind of vulnerability management system for your visualization and proper actions. And it also has a security hygiene in place. So definitely when all these tools, you're doing your SAST, your DAST, you're doing your security testing, you're doing your analysis in place, then definitely you have a certain level of security hygiene which comes along with it. And then it makes everybody responsible for the security. So it basically empowers your dev team, it empowers your ops team, and then there is no separate function of security. So everyone works together with each other. Yeah. But again, there are a few things which cannot be solved with this, definitely. So know that it's not a replacement for a usual pen test or a security testing, where testing is being done manually, where you are able to explore everything manually and then test every function differently, and mostly finding the logical bugs. So it's not a replacement for pen testing or a security testing. Pen testing, security testing still will be required even after you deploy a DevSecOps. Also, it's not possible to fix all the bugs which are being found. So it's not possible to fix 100% of the bugs, and also 100% of the tools cannot be trusted. So the results which are being thrown by the tools has to undergo some sort of filtering, some sort of automation, and then some sorts of fine tuning, so that you can get results which are lesser of false positives. Yeah. So who should opt for DevSecOps? Now, this is important, that the organization you come from, that what is the kind of culture there, what is the kind of frequency in which you are pushing your code. So you should have at least on a DevOps mode in order to mature yourself to DevSecOps. And also, it's also for the organization who are thinking to move towards the DevOps when they are migrating from their usual development lifecycle to a proper CI/CD implementation. And also for the organizations who are looking to empower their teams, who are looking to level up their application security game. And also there is a pressing need of compliance in application security. So because of this compliance need, DevSecOps brings a very good automation in place that we'll talk about it in the later slides. So this also can be addressed using the DevSecOps. So if you fall in this organization category, DevSecOps is a good solution for most of your application security problems. So I'm not saying all of the problems, most of the problems can be taken care by DevSecOps. Now, how to get started? I come across multiple organizations who have hundreds of applications in place, and they have been into legacy systems. They have been doing their code reviews once in a month or twice in a month, and they have this pushing need of different kind of compliance, which has been pushed either through regulatory bodies. And then there is a big challenge because there are some legacy systems. So always this question is there, where how to get started with DevSecOps. So first answer which I usually give them is make sure that your teams are in coherence to each other. So it's important that we provide right kind of training to all the stakeholders. We win their trust, at the same time develop kind of culture where people start owning the security. And once they own the security responsibility, it becomes easy for you to make them realize that it's a part of their day-to-day job. So in your Scrum meetings, in your day-to-day assignment of work, start introducing security, talking about security, start talking about security test cases along with your functional test cases. So it becomes easy. So orientation and training becomes a very, very important part of the start. Yeah. And then also it's important that you do a lot of research on the kind of tools which you are going to select for your DevSecOps pipeline. So you might be in a different kind of tech stack, and then the tool should be relevant to your tech stack. And then as if you are into open source, if you are, I'm a big time open source supporter, and I try to provide a sort of solution which are more of open source oriented. So if you are implementing open source tool, then it is important that you try to use it in a proper coherence, so that the lot of false positives which are being thrown by the tools can be taken care. So you need to work on your tools, you need to work on your pipeline, and make sure that there could be proper results which are being generated from there. And then start small and eventually increase the scope. So if you have hundreds of applications, then start with initially with one or two, check how it is being operating, fine tune that, and then push it. And even before that, do it on a test environment. Do it, set up a test pipelines, set up all your CI/CD tools, set up your different kind of automations at a test environment. Keep iterating over the time, and once you achieve certain level of efficiency there, then you start pushing it to a production pipeline. So it's always a smaller start, where you integrate different tools, starting with, for example, a simple SAST or a simple DAST, and then over the time you develop the pipeline, get all the different kind of security activities in place. So make sure you start small and then eventually take it to a bigger level. Then also it is important to optimize the whole pipeline. So you will see when different kind of tools work together with each other, there might be a possibility that overall build cycle might increase. So it is important that you look into individual tool efficiency, at the same time looking into what kind of results it is producing and how you are going to consume the results. So important that you work on this optimization over the time and make it overall more efficient process. And also keep enhancing the tools and for removing the false positive. And also know that, as I said before, also 100% of bug fixing is not at all possible. There will be some bugs always there which you will have to live with. Yeah. So it's DevSecOps is not about that you will be able to achieve 100% security or 100% of bug fixes. No, there will always be a trade-off. But what you can achieve is at least you will be able to identify vulnerabilities at a very early stage, which is going to save a lot of time of yours. At the same time, all these processes will be automated. So it will be easier for you to orchestrate everything and then produce the actionable results. So this is a stats which is being published by SANS, and they are basically talking about the top challenges in implementing DevSecOps. So I think there is a poll also related to this. You will get a pop-up on your screen. They're saying around 44.4% of organizations have insufficient budget funding. Because of that, uh, that has become biggest challenge for them to implement the DevSecOps. So similar way they have analyzed different kind of organizations, and they are saying top four are like organization silos, and then a technical debt and security debt in legacy environments, and there's a shortage of application security personnel, so professional skills. So these are the some top 4 or 5. I think if you get a pop-up, you can just give your answer there. And these are the common challenges in my experience also. I have seen people struggling with finding the right kind of resource, finding the right kind of people to run their pipelines. Also, it's very important that you should have management buy-in or a top-level support in order to implement this kind of initiatives in your organizations. This is a very eye-opening statistics, and you might be stuck in any of this. But again, it's an evolving process. So know that by starting small, you can actually grow your DevSecOps program and reach to a certain maturity level. So coming on to the tools, I'm just projecting a sample pipeline here. Don't get stuck to the names of the tool. There are multiple tools available, and there will be more in the future. What is important here to understand is that there is a CI/CD pipeline. So I'm just taking an example of GitLab. Now there are multiple kind of CI/CD pipelines. GitLab is one of such tools. There could be Jenkins, there could be Bamboo CI or Travis CI. So there could be multiple CI/CD orchestra you can actually select for. But what is important here is what is the kind of tools which are going to sit there in this pipeline. And for that, you will have to analyze your own environment. So what kind of tech stack you come from, and in that particular technology, what is the right kind of tool to select for your code review or for your so here the first thing what I'm projecting here is a secret scanning. Now this can be done as early as your IDE level as well, when a developer writes a code, and there could be some pre-commit hooks which basically can identify that if anything any sort of secret if is committing to the code. It could be API keys, it could be your username passwords. So these pre-commit hooks can actually prevent that kind of commit and alert the developer saying that, hey, this is something very sensitive which is going to the code. This also can be done at the scanning level. So as soon as the code is pushed, you can run the scanning in your CI/CD pipeline, and then it can alert you if any kind of secret is being committed. After that, there is a software composition analysis. So you know that the developers write 60 or 70% of the code, but 30% of the code is something which is directly imported, and even more than that. So these imported code is usually an open source library or written by some other organization or written by some volunteer who is supporting open source project. So there is no awareness about what kind of security is being assured by that code. So software composition analysis comes handy there. And then it basically scans your code and then find vulnerabilities which are because of all this open source code being committed. Yeah. So it is important that you run a software composition analysis to at least know that what kind of vulnerabilities are creeped in just because you're using some third-party tools or third-party libraries. Or so that takes care by this composition analysis. And then moving on to the code review. So that's where your SAST tool comes handy. So SAST is automation of your code review process. So with predefined checks or maybe regex based or the kind of technology the SAST tool comes with, you can actually identify those vulnerable lines of code which might become a vulnerability if used as it is. So at least a usual level of SQL injection, if somebody has written a normal inline SQL query, then it can easily flag you, and at least the basic security checks can be done very easily. And over the time, once you develop your tool, once you remove the false positives, because I have seen SAST tools sometimes throwing a lot of results. 300, 500 plus vulnerabilities just by running a SAS scan. So it's important that we attend to that. So over the time, you can fine tune it. You can use your proper rules, and definitely you can at least identify vulnerabilities there. Then after that, you run the DAS scan. So it's a dynamic application security scanning where application is already hosted, and then it's usually a longer scan. So it need not to run on each and every commit of your code. It can run on some major commits, and then vulnerabilities found here can also have different kind of false positives, which needs to be fine tuned over the time. And then this after the code runs through all this, it goes for a usual production environment. So if it is for example, it's AWS based, or if it is in-house infrastructure, then it's important that we fine tune and have a proper secure configuration for the production environment. So you can have an infra compliance there, where you can run it some sort of automation there, sir, and then you can identify is there anything missing there, or is any kind of patches which has to be applied. And similar way, you can have a regular scanning in place. So what I'm trying to show here is all this can be automated in a regular orchestration, and then can run over a CI/CD pipeline, and all the security activities can be a part of your day-to-day code commits. And then all that can also plug to a vulnerability management system, where you can visualize all these vulnerabilities of anything what you're missing, of anything has been flagged. So all these results can be imported in consumable format, for example, XML or JSON, and that can be plugged into vulnerability management system. Yeah, so a bit technical, but this is what the core of your DevSecOps pipeline will look like. So there are some tips which must be followed, I would say, to enhance your DevSecOps. It's important that what kind of tools you are using. So know that whatever tool you're using should have a command line support, or at least API support, so you can automate it thoroughly. Also, it should be able to consume lesser resources. So it's important that you look into all kind of what kind of resources it will eat, what is the RAM required, or what is the usual scan time. So all that matters a lot, because there are multiple tools which will come. And then also important to know that it should have lesser false positives. So first thing is you identify what is the tool which is applicable to your technology, and then what kind of results it is producing, and then considering, in case if it is open source, then you might fine tune it. But important to attend to this false positive factors, otherwise your builds can fail unnecessarily. Yeah. And one more important part here is, if tools are supporting containers, they are available in a containerized form. If it's available as Docker, then it's very easy, because everything becomes platform independent. So you can have those tools on your Linux comfortably, as well as on your Windows platform. So that is the good part about containerized format. And then also it should also take lesser time to run. So maximum time, I would say, it should not take more than 15 minutes to run. So important that you select the kind of tools which takes lesser time. And also generate consumable results. So important that those tools should have output in the format you want it. It could be just JSON or XML, and then you should be able to import it. And also note that no tool is complete in itself. So you might, as soon as you will start with one tool, over the time, as soon as your DevSecOps will evolve, you might have to select some other tool and fine tune the existing tool. So it's an evolving process, and over the time, you will eventually make it work in a more efficient way. So no tool is complete in itself, and also no tool no one uses a tool to its full potential. So know that the idea is to use it to its full potential, but it takes some sort of fine tuning and more attention to it. And over the time, you will be able to achieve some more efficiency with your tools. Yeah. So these are the guidelines from our side for selecting the right kind of tools. But of course, it needs a professional support. It needs some sort of consulting to basically sit with you across the table and understand your requirement and design a proper pipeline for you. And yeah, so good to select right kind of tool if you want to evolve in the process. So this is a sort of a simple comparison I wanted to present, because manual testing is something which has its own importance. Of course, tools does a good job, but at the same time, manual part cannot be ignored. So here, if you see, there is no possibility of false positives in manual testing. Yeah, but in tools, you will see this large number of false positives. At the same time, you will see that there are logical vulnerabilities which cannot be found by the tool. So you need a manual testing in place. Uh, but when it comes to the speed, you can find you can have better coverage when it comes to the tool, so you can run it faster and um, uh, generate the results in a smaller time. And manual testing takes time. And reporting, so you have a set format in your tools, and in manual testing you have option to customize your reports. And investment wise also, the manual testing is something you need to subscribe again and again, and tools are usually a year long license or something like that. Yeah. And results are usually standard in tools. But for manual testing, I have seen that the different kind of security engineers, when they test, the different kind of results are being observed. So it changes from individuals to individuals. So manual is not a replacement of tools. At the same time, tools have their own place. So DevSecOps is trying to bring the tools and to make it work in a proper automated way, and at least do a good job as a automation. And then, of course, the manual testing will be a part of it. As I said, it's not a replacement of a usual pen test or a security testing. That has to be there. So this is how the things work. And I just wanted to present this fact so that you know that you can take the right kind of decisions based on that. So are you ready for DevSecOps? You know, it's the same question which I posed in front of you when I started this talk. So do you think that the frequent code changes makes it difficult for you to keep up with the security? So now, once the DevSecOps is implemented, then you know that it can be automated in a regular fashion, and then the whole idea is to keep up the security at par with the speed of your deployments. And if you're facing similar kind of issues in pentest, then definitely all those usual cases can be automated in your DevSecOps pipeline and then can be identified early, so that you don't need to wait for the pentest reports to arrive with those kind of issues. And if you are facing roadblocks due to the security and compliance, then most of the activities of your security and compliance can be automated in your pipeline, where you can generate a lot of actionable results. At the same time, you can achieve the compliance. Yeah. And the frequent bug fixes which cause architectural changes, yeah, so this can be handled early in your development lifecycle. You can have vulnerabilities being identified early in your SAST and DAST, and in case if you implement threat modeling. So this also can be handled. And application stakeholders can become responsible about the security, so they can learn the security, they can uh, become responsible, as the whole culture move towards security is everyone's responsibility. Yeah. So that's what DevSecOps brings to the table. And talking about ROI, so I hope the audience here, a lot of are my CISO friends also there. So in my day-to-day conversations with them, it becomes a bigger challenge, the kind of investment, how much the investment should go and what is the output. So this slide is for all of you who are thinking of it from ROI perspective. So know that you are going to save a lot of time in debugging the code of, and coming back and fixing after the vulnerability has been identified in the production environment. So a lot of that time and resources is going to be saved once DevSecOps in place. Also, you might be thinking of getting a security application security resource, but it's a very costly affair. So you can save a lot of cost on getting a different security team or getting a guy who is just dedicated for the security if you start moving towards DevSecOps. And then you can also save money on your consulting. So if you are employing some sort of consulting teams, or then definitely once a DevSecOps in place, then security can be taken care of to a larger level. So the time spent by your consulting teams can be reduced. So that cost saving can also happen. And once the automation in place, then definitely the time to fix the bugs, time to identify the bugs really improves. So over the time, you will see that you are saving a lot of costs there. And then there are a lot of saving on the time as well. So there are shorter fixing cycles, and then there are security aware developers, and there's of course long-term saving happening. So you can see that there's definite ROI on this. And yeah, if you study about some of the organizations who are running successful DevSecOps program, then you will realize that the overall efficiency, overall security culture, everything improves over the time. So these are this is another statistics from taken from the same SANS paper, and it's about how the DevSecOps success factors. What are the different kind of success factors? So the first thing is about management buy-in. So it's very important that your management support this, and also important that the communication across the disciplines should be proper, and then you should have buy-in from the developer teams as well about security, following the security practices, and then you should have automated build deployment. So all these are the different kind of success factors which are critical for the success of any DevSecOps program. And I'm sure once you start moving towards DevSecOps, automatically everything comes as a part of the evolving culture. Yeah. So one of the case study I wanted to talk about today, because we are implementing DevSecOps in our day-to-day work, and this is about one of our clients where they have a product which is a SaaS-based product, and there are multiple challenges which was there before DevSecOps implementation. Like dev teams they were not very well equipped with the security knowledge, and there were multiple repeated vulnerabilities which they were facing, and then there was significant loss of efforts and cost because of identifying issues later in the development lifecycle. And there were delays and roadblocks because of security, and there's a lot of issues arising because of that. And there were lack of efficient processes which people were facing. So all this was like clear signs for us to come up with a DevSecOps solution, and that's what we did. We implemented a proper CI/CD pipeline for all the business critical applications, and there were automation which happened where multiple test cases, security activities were taken care, and then different kind of tools were integrated, and there were periodic reports and regular reports were possible to get generated and able to help the compliance teams as well. And there were proper orientation about the developers about the whole process, and secure development, secure coding and secure development knowledge was given to the dev team, so that everything can be taken care while they're identifying security issues. So also there were a lot of automation happened at the infra level where controls can be implemented. So all these were part of the whole plan which we devised for them. And then once the implementation happened, there was a noticeable decline in vulnerabilities, and there were easy alignment in compliance requirements. There were timely remediation of vulnerabilities. So the time to identify and time to fix that really bettered over the time. And then there was significant cost saving and effort, and definitely there were enhanced security culture. So and of course it improves the overall automation and security speed. So that's what. So there is a definite impact once you move towards the DevSecOps. As I said, it's the next level of application security, and now it's important that we understand that what are the next step once we are equipped with this knowledge. So know that it's not just a few weeks of process. Once you start it, there are a lot of iterations which happen. You start small, as I said, and then take it to the bigger level, to the different kind of applications or technologies which are there with you, and then have proper trainings and team cultures. There will be a definite change once you orient your teams and give them proper knowledge about DevSecOps. and have your pen test in place, have your bug bounties. If you're running some bug bounties program, have it in place, have your pen test in place, because as I said, it helps as a feedback mechanism for your DevSecOps process. So if bugs are being identified at the pen test, then you can go and automate some of the security test cases and identify those bugs early. Yeah. And then use feedback mechanism. So it's important that all the tools generating results, you should have a mechanism. You should be able to see what kind of results are coming out, what is the percentage of false positives, and is there a way you can improve that. And then make sure that once you implement DevSecOps, your pipeline, different tools, different vulnerability management system, all should also have security in place. So you should not have a GitLab running with some sort of default credentials which are being given by your IT team to somebody, and they're able to log into your GitLab pipeline, because that compromises everything there. Or you have vulnerability management system running which has some missing patches or some vulnerabilities already there. So make sure you are taking care of your security of DevSecOps as well. So all those tools will also get updates over the time, and then make sure that security of that is also taken care. And then keep integrate further. And so don't just depend or emotionally attach to one tool. It's important that you integrate over the time and evolve the tools and get the best from whether if it's commercial or open source. And then with all this together, I hope you can make security everyone's responsibility. And that's what DevSecOps brings to you. So yeah, so that's it from my side. I hope you had a good time understanding about DevSecOps.